All right. I got runs in my paint job. Looks pretty bad. Should I respray the whole truck or just sand down and blend it? It's white single stage. So it depends. Let me sit down. It really depends what you want to do. You know, you could just do a single panel if you want, or you could, it depends. Do you have runs all the way around the vehicle? You know, is it like runs all over the place or just in one spot? If it's in one area, like a quarter panel or a fender, you could just respray that panel. Sean Daniels, hey Tony, I have a damage on a 2021 Ford F-150, too small, 2 millimeter dents. Question is, do I need to clear the entire bedside after I filler, prime, and paint, or can I just use something like a blend coat? To do the job correctly, if you're doing any kind of painting, it's best to clear the entire panel, okay? Because if you're going to be blending, you want to be blending on a small section, like, you know, in here. You know, a narrow part. It's going to be hard to blend such a wide panel. You know what I mean? You don't want to be blending in a wide panel. You want to be blending in a small panel. So like a door pillar column type of thing. You know, that's kind of where you want to do your blends, but not like over a huge wide area. So, oh, wet on wet, then you leave 30 minutes to color sand, or to color, you meaning by paint? Well, primer, you could spray primer a few times while it's wet. So that's fine. You know, you don't have to let primer flash as much as you let base coat flash or single stage. So you could lay primer on a panel and come back around in 5 minutes. Even though it's still a little wet, you can just soak more primer on it. You can, as long as you don't like wet it out so much that you're getting a bunch of runs. As long as you don't run it, you're fine, right? But if you do run it, you just let that dry and you block it out, you sand it out. Okay. So that's fine. If you want to spray primer on wet and get it. I mean, if you watch some of my videos, you'll see how I spray primer. I mean, it's, you know, you could just wet it on if you want, no big deal. Sean says, to blend a small spot on a large panel, what grit should I sand the existing clear before I clear the entire panel? You could go down to 800, but if you want to be safe and make sure you don't sand through the clear coat, you can go with 1,000 grit is fine. So yeah, 1,000 grit, the whole panel is fine. And then you could do, you know, your body work with 400 grit. I don't know if you had to do glaze putty or primer or whatever, but you could do the area that you body work and fix with 400 grit. And then you could 1,000 the rest of the panel and then clear it. Hopefully that helps. Sean Daniels, let me know. You could even go 800 actually, but if you're working with a factory paint job, 800, you know, the clear coats are very thin. You might risk cutting through pretty easily to your base layer, and you really don't want to cut through to your base layer. Ketis Bloom, new VIP member here from Delaware. What do you recommend ventilation-wise for my garage? It's 16 by 30 as far as filters and fans. So I picked up this filter. I'm not sure what brand it is. Electric fan motor. I don't know. I picked up this thing and it's enough. It sucks out enough cubic feet. I did the math for my 24 by 24 garage, which is almost 500 square feet in here, right? And it does an excellent job. And guys, I painted my van in the garage here. I painted this huge monster van in my garage here. And I got all the footage for you to see. It's going to be coming out shortly. So just be patient because you guys are going to get all the footage for this thing. It doesn't look like that ugly teal thing anymore. It looks pretty badass, especially like from afar, like out on the road, or like, you know, it looks really good with the rims and all. It looks pretty dope. People like it a lot. So, and then as far as the intake, I just cut a hole in my door. Okay, and I put this little filter in. It's a little dirty, but it is a little restrictive. So when I painted this van, actually, I left the door open a smidge, probably about this much, and I just had fresh air coming in, you know, from my backyard. I had fresh air coming in, and I hardly had any dust. So as long as you got clean intake air coming in, that's really not dusty, you don't have to worry about it. But if you want to be extra careful and have some ventilation and you know, intake, I would recommend, you know, having at least 2 of these. One is not enough for me because it's restrictive. When I open the door, the fan actually has more flow, so you know that it's restricting. When I close that door all the way, you can feel the fan straining, but when I crack it open 2 inches and I let free air come in, this thing just really, it like blows right out. So when I was spraying this van in here, literally I didn't have any issues with overspray. It just sucked right out. So, and this fan is a 24-inch attic fan that I got from Amazon for a couple $100. Works excellent. Works excellent. See? So yeah, it's all you need. All you got to worry about is getting the overspray out, because if you don't have a good exhaust system, a good exhaust fan, it just gets so cloudy in the garage and you can't see. Okay. And it's just not good because the paint's, you know, paint's going in your eyes unless you're wearing goggles, right? And you feel it, right? It's going into your system. So the better exhaust you have, it's just so much better because it just sucks it right out. You can see what you're doing. And yeah, after like a flow coat. Yeah, I mean, a binder is basically, you're talking about a mid coat, right? For paint not to get solvent palms. So the longer the better. Okay, so if you let it dry a day and you do your body work the next day, that's more than enough time. But if you're rushing, I would say 3-4 hours. Okay, then you're good to go. Okay, painting before 3-4 hours is a little, you know, still kind of in that curing stage. Okay, it does dry, but you know, to fully be cool about it and not worry about any type of extra curing and shrinkage, a day is a good amount of time. Do you know why after waxing a couple days later, the collected dust makes the paint feel like sandpaper? Do you know why after waxing a couple of days later, the collected dust makes the paint feel like sandpaper? Oh, it's because of the dust. I'm assuming it's the dust on the paint. So you want to blow it off or hose it off. You really don't want to wipe dust back in onto your paint. The best way to get rid of that, most of it's probably from like static, you know, static sticking dust sticking to your car. So you just want to hose it off. To blend the base during a spot repair, do you change your gun settings and spray techniques? Spray techniques, yes, because you're blending, right? You make sure there's nothing in here. God, I just cleaned it out the other day. That's why. And I usually keep some thinner in it. I use the X27, I think, for the white, and then I use the X88 for the black. So I use 2 guns, actually. Yeah, I use the 27 for the white single stage, and then the black single stage, I use the X88. Gun settings, not really. I'm normally spraying with the same gun settings. Damn, that was gnarly, dude. Right on my MacBook keys. It looks okay. But as far as, you know what, I might actually turn the pressure up a little bit more when I'm dusting, you know, and drop coating, kind of like, but mostly the spray technique is different. So, you know, when blending, you're not just spraying this way on a panel. You could also kind of go like this. You know, you crisscross it. So you spray like this, and then you kind of go like this across your panel. to make sure your metallics or whatever you're doing blends in the panel. So yeah. Recommend fiberglass filler or long hair fiberglass with resin. Reinforcing an aftermarket body kit. I would use, here's what I used. I filled some rust spots on my, I had a couple of holes actually on the top of the hood here. And I used long strand kitty hair, which is great stuff to fill up my rust holes because I wasn't doing any welding or any of that on this thing. Sheet metal work, heck no. We just use some of this stuff. Okay, and it works great. So you could do this for the majority of it, and then for like little extra filling and shaping, you could use body filler over it. So you put this on to reinforce it, and if you really want to make it look good and smoothen it out and make it, you know, perfecto, then you would just put body filler over it and then finish it off. Hopefully that helps. The whole ventilation part of this van looks good. Wouldn't have thought you just shot it with the door cracked. Yep, door cracked. And I actually do a lot of my paint jobs like that because I noticed that the one hole that I put, it's a 14 by 24 or a 16 by 24. I think it's a 16 by 24 opening I put in that door. But one is not enough, and I just don't want to cut another hole in my door and just go through it again. So I just crack it and I paint. And I did my motorcycle projects in here like that, just fresh air coming in, hardly getting dust. I mean, it came out excellent. Came out excellent. It really did. Coats of white. Did you cover the green? 2 coats. So when spraying single stage, guys, normally you're putting 2 heavy coats on and you're done. So what I did was initially, let me turn the light on. What I did was I did the roof first, 2 coats, because I didn't want to do the roof, come down, do the body, go up, you know, and risk touching the side of the van again with my clothes or whatever. You know, I had my jumpsuit on, but I was like, screw it. I'm just going to put 2 heavy coats on the roof. Maybe we could kind of like step on the tire. I'll step on something to show you the roof. Roof came out great. I had to go up and down the ladder 16 times because, you know, I could only do a section at a time. So I had to do basically up and down one side 4 times because I had to go up the ladder, spray a little bit, move it, spray a little bit more, move it, spray a little bit more, move it, and catch the back. So I was up and down 16 times, probably more, 20, because I had to get in the back one shot. I put 2 coats on the top, 2 coats on the body, called it a day. I waited 3 days, let it cure, taped up my graphic, taped up the 2-tone all around with fine line tape. You can see how nice it came out as far as, you know, and yeah, the black has a little paint texture, but it's glossy as hell. People, you know, at the body shop were thinking it was a base coat clear coat job. I'm like, dude, it's single stage. Okay, we painted the handles to match the body. It looks great. And then we did, you know, the 2-tone over here. Okay, and then I shot the black. We did Raptor liner underneath because it was brown and ugly, and I did the Raptor liner on the grill as well to give it that rugged look. Gloss bumpers. You can see how glossy the bumpers look. Did the bottom plastic, has a little paint texture because it's over raw plastic. Bumpers look fantastic. And that's pretty much it. Pretty much it. Looks good. Let me show you the roof. And the mirrors have a little orange peel because we went directly over raw plastic. Now, if you want to get rid of this type of texture, you could see how this looks super glossy, right? Because we primed it with 2K filler and then we sanded it. That gives us a better gloss. This was directly over raw plastic, which already had a texture in the plastic. Some of you guys know what I'm talking about. But if you want to get rid of this texture, you 2K filler prime it, you sand it flat with 400, and then you paint it, and then it'll look like this, gloss. Me, I don't know. It was a good experience actually showing you guys what it looks like if you don't do it. All I did was put Bulldog adhesion promoter over my raw plastic, and I shot 2 coats of black enamel. Okay, and this is what it looks like. If you go over textured raw plastic, you're going to get this orange peel look. If you want to eliminate it, fill it with 2K filler primer, sand it flat, paint it, it'll look like glass. Okay, it'll look like this pretty much. So let's take a look at the roof here. Roof is all done as well. Okay. And then we have our two-tone, the black. All right. Hopefully you guys are enjoying. Dude, this is a real deep black. Jeff Dennis, I don't know, but this black by AIC from Sherwin-Williams, this is probably one of the deepest blacks that I've seen in a single stage. I mean, you could look at it. It is black, black. Really nice black. Have you used Feather Fill G2? Yes, I have. I don't like it. It's too thick. I would rather kind of finish off the body work a little bit smoother and then use a 2K filler primer. Ceramic coating help a paint job with poor paint last longer? Yeah, you could try that. I would buff it out first to have a good, take it to a detail shop or do it yourself, do a good buff job on it, and then do the ceramic coating. Good prep to clear coat a whole panel, while 2000 grit is appropriate for clear coat blend. Yeah, 1500 to 2000 if you're going to be blending it. And when you're saying clear coat blend, you're doing a clear coat fade and then buffing, right? To buff into your other panel. Okay, fiberglass motorcycle fender. I want to take an inch out of it. How do I put it back together with the inch missing and it stays together? You could scuff up the whole back and you could put a fiberglass cloth in the back if you want. You can use kitty hair. You can use epoxy. There's many ways to do it. I'd have to see kind of what you're working on. Are you cutting the front narrow part? Or are you going longwise on the fender? How are you cutting it? Hard for me to kind of give you any ideas, but basically you want to make sure the whole back is sanded out with like an 80 grit. And then you could put your material, your plastic material in it if you want, gel it, and you could finish it off like that, or you can epoxy it. It just depends on how big of a cut you're doing. Okay, fiberglass motorcycle fender. I want to take an inch out of it. How do I put it back together with the inch missing and it stays together? You could scuff up the whole back and you could put a fiberglass cloth in the back if you want. You can use kitty hair. You can use epoxy. There's many ways to do it. I'd have to see kind of what you're working on. Are you cutting the front narrow part? Or are you going longwise on the fender? How are you cutting it? Hard for me to kind of give you any ideas, but basically you want to make sure the whole back is sanded out with like an 80 grit. And then you could put your material, your plastic material in it if you want, gel it, and you could finish it off like that, or you can epoxy it. It just depends on how big of a cut you're doing. Easy as the smell. I mean, single stage is pretty, you can smell it. My garage finally kind of aired out, but it does last for a few days in your garage. Are you going to pinstripe to break up the black and white separation? I might, but it doesn't really need it. I don't think it needs it, but I could if I want to. That's just, ice cream on, gravy on top, icing on the top. Or the other way, base and clear. It's easier and quicker to spray single stage because you're only putting 2 coats on and you're done. Okay. If you're doing base clear, you're putting 2-3 coats of base, and then you're putting 2 coats of clear. Okay. Single stage covers very, very quick. It's thick. Your prep doesn't have to be as finicky or as fine as when you're doing base coat, clear coat. But actually, I pretty much finished when I was sanding for the black. I finished at 400 grit because I wanted to make sure the black came out really nice. Because with black, you see a lot of imperfections, you know. So yeah. Yeah, for a medium to high end job, this is a great clear coat. I just showed you the finish one. Very, very good clear coat. All right. 6.9 at 40. Yes, it will work. It will work. It just depends on how much you'll be painting. You know, how much you're going to be painting. You're going to have a problem painting a full car with that. But if you do a single panel or 2 panels with it, you're going to be fine. You know, motorcycle, you're going to be fine. Okay, because your air compressor tank is basically limited, right? It's a limiting factor. 33 gallons. It limits you on painting a complete car because you don't have enough volume of air stored, right? And yeah, so that's pretty much it. All right, guys, have a great week. I'll talk to you soon. Give a thumbs up. Subscribe to Learn Autobody. Subscribe to Crypto Waters if you want to learn more about crypto. All right, guys, have a good week. I'll talk to you later. Cheers. There's that last link for Learn Autobody. Peace.